I'm speeding.
Do you take one on the mark?
Well, Mike, 78 was an interesting time for Genesis because you'd lost another member, Steve, so you were down to a three-piece in the studio at least, but success was really starting to build now. It was probably your most successful year commercially, wasn't it, until that point?
Yeah, it wasn't until recently, looking back at these things, that I realised that I was 28. And I think I was doing Knebworth at 28. It's amazing, in a nice way, you know what I mean? It didn't seem special at the time. But looking back, it was quite an achievement. It was our first really big show, I think. It was then a 3 album, and we lucked out with Follow You Follow Me. There was a hit, so suddenly we had a sort of wider audience, and it all kind of went our way, I think, actually. And in my mind, that was the one show that year that kind of capped the whole thing, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it was basically, I know there were other bands on the bill, but it was your audience, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, people often because that summer we were doing shows around Europe. That's the same year, I'm sure, we sort of billed with us. We were headlining, then there was Dylan and Zappa. Great bill, actually. And so we were but what happened in those days, people often say to me, did you do festivals? We didn't, because basically that was our show, the Knebworth show. Who'd been at the support band could have changed, but we were doing sort of festival-sized shows as our show. And it's kind of easy when it's your show,
And the band just before you was Jefferson Starship, who were, as I remember, missing a rather important member.
They've been supporting us around Europe, and I miss it. They were fine when we were doing the shows, but I remember that Grace Slick went a bit AWOL on one of the shows, apparently, or got in trouble, and the Knebworth show she didn't appear,
What were your first impressions of Knebworth when you arrived there?
We arrived the day before for the sound check, actually, and because there's a great memorable shot of the three of us in front of the stage. It might have been the Standard or one of the papers, it's the biggest stage in the world, People love figures, the biggest road crew, the biggest. And actually it was, because the PA was huge either side, and there's the three of us going there. And I remember you arrived, and of course, what makes it work is that the kind of valley, the slopes down in a sort of man-made little enclave. So when you look it up, you can see the banks either side, and it's just a big space, empty.
And you had the stage show to actually make use of that space, didn't you? Because by now you had the mirrors and the lasers. It was impressive.
It was. I think it's Genesis always work well in the dark. It's why festivals, when some bands play in the daytime, our music needs an atmosphere and a mood, and so Knebworth was quite a good moment for that.
Did you actually get into the house? Did you meet the family?
We went for a drink afterwards. That might have been another year, I can't remember. I think that year, I'm not sure, I'm certain we did, no. I met the family over the years, I think, actually, a couple of times. And I think it was the next one, actually, or the last one. We went for a drink afterwards. Lovely old house with sort of amazing woodwork inside, what I remember.
You obviously liked the place because you went there 3 times. What is it about Knebworth that kind of sets it apart from other venues, do you think?
Well, you see, I think that the slope sounds silly, but a flat field. This slopes down, and so it's not quite a valley, but the bottom is a natural setting for you don't see other pictures from the helicopter. When you're down there, the slope they can sort of see. It makes it much better, actually.
Yeah. Then you went. What do you remember of that 78 gig in particular? Anything stand out for you? Was it a good one for you?
Cold. Fucking cold. I can't tell you how cold it was. I remember Tony Banks wearing these sort of gloves, like sort of step-toe gloves. Because actually, some of those solos he was doing, if your hands are cold, you're in trouble. Some of that guitar, you can get away with it because you're strumming or picking, but you need the motion in your fingers to do it. These big shows, when you're young, it's all a bit surreal. You sort of miss. It goes past so fast. And of course, the wind. Having said what a wonderful little valley it is coming down, the wind comes down the valley too. So that was cold. But it was slightly unbelievable, that many people. 100,000, 120, I can't remember. You know, age 28, I sort of have to sort of equate the two now.
An early peak, certainly, of the career, I would think.
Yeah, and it's sort of funny when, you know, doing this book we discussed earlier, this book I just done, you sort of realise that you look over the whole eras and how things sped up suddenly when Peter left and then Steve left, not because of them leaving, but how it could have gone, you know, how well it did go.
Yeah. Well, you went back in 1990 for the charity event, the Nordhoff Robins. Did you get a chance to see any of the other acts? Because it was a real sort of galaxy of stars that day.
Well, I saw Phil stuff. Yeah, it was great. I think I saw Cliff. It was great, actually. I mean, as for one of the nice charities we've all worked with in Nordhoff Robins over the years, we've done quite a few shows with Nordhoff Robins. Like I did a Wembley show once, and Charles and Diana came, and we've done other shows for them, you know. It's a wonderful charity. And so to tie it in with Knebworth kind of made sense. Well, one of those events you felt, I presume no one said no, I mean, I can't think anyone who did, but I mean, all the award winners over the years just turned up. It's quite a nice moment like that.
And then 2 years later, you were really kind of at the peak of your success at this point. You had We Can't Dance was out. So that was much more back to being your own audience again. Is that the one where you arrived by helicopter but Tony didn't and got into trouble?
Yeah. At a young age, Banks decided he's going to have to either overcome his fear of flying or not be in a band. And so he's not keen on flying. Anyway, so we have a choice here. So he drove in. I think nearly couldn't get in, you know. And of course the best bit was leaving, because, you know, you get in the helicopter, off you go, bye, and there's Tony in the back of the car, you know. And that was among friends of mine. I think Chris Tarrant rang me. Or I think on his show in the morning, he said friends of his were in the car park, hadn't made the motorway by 6 in the morning. That's the one trouble actually with Knebworth, is the road in and the road out. Yeah. And I suppose in the early days there was nothing like it, so everyone went. But now there's Twickenham and other stadiums, big venues that you can get into and out more easily. But it's still an iconic name really now in the music world, you know, to have that many shows, the Zeppelin, all those bands over the years, it's pretty special.
And it, I mean, I suppose in the 70s, it kind of was the premier festival venue, more than Glastonbury, which has kind of overtaken it in recent years.
Glastonbury, I mean, I'm a bit grey on my history here, but Glastonbury was sort of a much funkier sort of approach to music. It wasn't trying to be anything very big in those days, just sort of it grew organically towards the end, but in those days it wasn't quite the same thing at all.
And also this is just the one stage, which makes it you know, very different from many of the festivals these days, isn't it?
Yeah. In a sense, that's probably the trouble, because, you know, Glastonbury it's hard to get to, but you go in for 3 days, so it's kind of okay, you know. But to go in for one show and out, but it was still great memories, really, actually. And of course now every country house has got a festival or it's got an event, but not quite that scale and not that far back too. And that's the key, I think, how early on it was in the music world, you know.
That's nice.
Cool.
I think that'll do us. Very good. Cut.